Today on Talking Cars, we drive two high-performance AMG models. One costs $60,000 more than the other. Is it really worth it? Plus, what's happening with BMW? With these models, has Mercedes-Benz become the ultimate driving machine? Next on Talking Cars. Welcome to Talking Cars. I'm Jake Fisher.
I'm Gabe Shenhar.
And we're in a very kind of special edition of Talking Cars here. We are going to be comparing two Mercedes-Benz AMG models. We are right now in the Amg GTS, and the other car will be the Mercedes-Benz C63 AMG. Gabe, tell us a little bit about the car we're in right now.
Okay, so we're in a Mercedes AMG GT, which is a Mercedes maybe late answer to the Porsche 911 and a bunch of other cars in this class, like the Jaguar F-Type, for instance. But I mean, this car is kind of semi-exotic. It's almost like a version of the $200,000 SLS with the gullwing doors and that. But this one is a $130,000, $140,000 car. It's a two-seater V8.
So the SLS was kind of takes the place of the SLS as being like the top level,
the top halo car,
the halo car Mercedes-Benz sportiness,
yeah.
Right? And the SLS had gullwing doors. It was a lot more money.
Right.
This is actually, some of the components of this are actually based on that. I think
the powertrain is very, very similar, almost the same.
Well, then the SLS, they had the 6.2 liter big V8,
right.
And now they've gone to this twin turbo V8 4 liter. And you know, what do you think about all these turbos going on all these cars? I mean, it used to be big displacement, right?
I know. I mean, these used to be like 6.3 liter engines, V8s. Now it's a 4 liter twin turbo. It works. I mean, you get very, very linear, immediate 500 plus horsepower, oodles of torque.
Well, one of the things that they did with this motor is, right, they took those turbos and they put them, it's in the V, right? They're right there, right by the intake, and there's no lag here, right? I mean, this feels like a normally aspirated car.
Completely. And sounds it too.
It sounds like it. Most importantly, I mean, listen to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anybody who's kind of like, oh, these turbos aren't the same as the large displacement motors, you're missing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And this car is such a, I mean, there's something so visceral about this car. It's it's just a fire breather of a monster.
And the transmission here, this isn't a conventional, tell us about the transmission.
So yeah, the transmission is a dual clutch automated manual. It's as if it's a manual transmission for all intents and purposes inside, but you have a little robot doing the shifting for you, and doing it very well.
It does. It really does. And we've seen some of these transmissions, they're kind of goofy, and
the Nissan GTR, it gets a little out of sorts, but this is just fantastic,
too well,
especially for a track.
It looks, I mean, you got that big long hood in front of you. I almost feel like I'm sitting in the back seat of a sedan here.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, it's like a Mercedes kind of Corvette,
But they do it for a reason, right? They're doing it for weight balance.
Right.
I mean, this is essentially
the V8 is kind of mounted almost midship.
Right. It's basically almost a mid-engine car. So, what do you think? We both had this out here before. We were taking around the track. We've driven it. I mean, what do you think about ride handling, steering?
So yeah, I mean the car. I mean handling. I mean the car has just incredible abilities, and the grip is phenomenal. And even at the limit, I mean you can play with it. It's all nice and gradual. But that said, I mean this car is not for the faint of heart. Don't get me wrong. I mean this is a serious car. This is a real thing here.
Yep.
So and ride. It's not going to beat you up completely. I mean, of course, it's not. Don't expect like a Mercedes S-Class type of plushness here.
But we're talking what, $140,000. So
typically equipped with some typical options. I mean, you got to get the suede steering wheel. That's
you got to get the suede. That's nice.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to get out of this and get into its little brother, the C63 AMG and the C63S, which actually has the same heart, right? I mean, it's basically the same engine, It's the same transmission,
Right.
very, very similar, but the price is a lot less. It's about,
Right.
what?
It's $80,000.
$80,000 instead
Yeah.
of about 140.
Yeah.
And we're going to drive that and see which ones we like better.
Yeah. So the C63 AMG, this is another product from AMG, which is Mercedes in-house high-performance boutique, and this car kind of competes with the BMW M3, of course, and the Cadillac ATS-V. Super sport, high-performance car without really telling the whole world about it.
Yeah, it's amazingly understated, right? I mean, the exterior of it looks pretty similar to the C300 that we tested.
That's the beauty of it. You have the same kind of powertrain as the AMG GT.
Right.
500 plus horsepower, and yet you run incognito here.
Well, in addition to that, right, you're saving a bunch of money. You have a lot of similar components, right? I mean, there are some differences with steering. A lot of people talk about hydraulic versus electric steering. What do you think? Are you driven them both around the track?
Well,
is there a big difference?
There is. I think I like the smaller footprint of this car and the pointability of it. I think the huge AMG footprint and V8 and sitting low is, I don't know, maybe it's because I have less sympathy for two-seater cars that cost $140,000.
Right.
But with this car, I mean, having that kind of fun, and having such incredible capability,
right,
in a four-door sedan like that, it's just that whole concept really talks to me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Gabe. I mean, okay, maybe the steering isn't quite as razor sharp as the GT, and it doesn't have the same balance of the GT, right? The GT,
Right.
You're sitting in the back seat and you just got that long hood, and it's probably better fore aft. But this thing feels smaller. You're right. It doesn't have that huge hood. I feel like around this track, you can just kind of pinpoint the thing. It's tighter. I mean, the seats are very similar, actually, right? The front seats, except I got a rear seat now too. I can throw my kids in this thing. But you got the performance.
I can't help remember the previous generation C63. And that hydraulic steering, that was just incredible. And that was, by the way, a normally aspirated V8, not the turbo
6.2.
Yeah. So
I
I
totally
kind of miss that car.
I totally agree with you. And the funny thing is, I missed that car not for the reason I thought I would. I thought I was gonna miss that car because I like that big displacement V8, no turbocharged, that grunt. This has got all the grunt and all the sound to it. I got a dirty little secret about Mercedes. Comparing these two cars, comparing that AMG GT and the C63. You know what? On the track, this one's more fun, and not just because it's smaller, but because it's more playful. It's easier to drive this car at the limit. It's got all that weight up front. It's just more docile. It's more playful.
I mean, it'll rotate, on a dime. There we go.
But it's so easy to do that. Whereas, I mean, I guess if I was racing someone around, going for lap times around the Nürburgring, sure, the AMG GT, okay, that's your weapon.
That's not guaranteed.
Well, but this car, this is such a blast. It gives you 99% of the fun, and without the showiness. So you got to figure out, is it extra $60,000 worth it to,
Well, it's all about the styling and the
styling
exclusivity.
and the image,
I mean, here you're just driving another C-Class, which, your neighbor probably is leasing for $299 a month.
Right.
C300, but with the AMG GT, I mean, you have a real sensual-looking car. I mean, it's a sleek piece of machinery.
So what's your car?
For me personally, it's going to be this one. I mean, the C63 AMG is just that's my car. I mean, that's such a high-performance car that doesn't really beat you up, to give you all the luxury. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the enthusiast car. I mean, if you're really just into the performance and you're into what it does, this is your car. If it's, if you want to have that image, you want to have that look, what? You
double downshift was just awesome.
it's really incredible. I mean, it's such a blast to drive this car. And what the other interesting thing about it is where Mercedes-Benz has gone.
Exactly. That's so interesting because look at BMW and their Halo high-performance car. It's now the i8, which is an electric hybrid 3-cylinder kind of thing. It's all high-tech, and it just looks like it might be a Tesla competitor.
Right.
Whereas the AMG GT is like an old-school muscle car, basically.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, I love it, but you know, is Mercedes-Benz like hasn't realized that the game has changed? Maybe. What's going on here?
Well, or maybe the BMW is changing the game too quick. I mean, BMW was always the enthusiast choice, and now Mercedes-Benz. I mean, you know, if you're not paying attention, Mercedes-Benz, oh, they make, you know, refined, solid, you know, conservative cars. I guess they still do, right? They still do.
Yeah.
But no, they're not making these 3-cylinder, you know, hybrids. They're for performance cars.
Yeah, BMW kind of quietly really switched modes here and went all high tech and futuristic.
Yep.
And Mercedes-Benz is the more visceral choice here.
So is Mercedes-Benz the enthusiast choice now between Mercedes-Benz and BMW?
Well, I don't know, because Porsche is still Porsche, you know.
Porsche is still Porsche, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a good question, but I mean that might be for another podcast.
All right, well, this has been awesome. Thank you for putting up with my driving.
Oh, it's like a delight. I can do it all day.
All right, well, that's it from us in Talking Cars. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.